found a new favorite author. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm back with another deep dive in one of the historical romance authors that I've been meaning to try, and I've actually tried it, and now she is definitely one of my favorite historical romance authors simply because I just love her storylines and I love her characters that she creates, and it's always light and fluffy, and it's definitely something that I would recommend to you. The author that I'm reading is Maya Rodale, and I read 2 of her series. One of the series is called Keeping Up with the Cavendishes, and then the next series that I read is actually Boys and Wallflowers. Now I've had a conversation with my friends who are really into historical romances, and they tend to really like the Wallflower type of character, so I definitely recommend Boys and Wallflowers for you. And Keeping Up with the Cavendishes is actually a series that's based on 90s films, so you're going to see a lot of references and you're going to see similar plot lines with that series as well. Overall, I really enjoyed Maya Rodale's books. I thought that they were very fun and they were light and fluffy. Even though that the characters had dark backgrounds, they were able to overcome their dark backgrounds and live the perfect and happy life that they deserve. So here we are reviewing the series. So I think the first book that I want to talk about is the one book that I read quite a while back ago. I read this book around 5 years ago when I was still in high school, and I wasn't into book blogging yet. I wasn't on any platforms talking about books, and I was just reading for fun. So even this book on my first read, I never marked it on Goodreads, so that's how long ago it was. But I decided to reread some of my favorite historical romances that I read when I was young to see if I would still like it in the end, and I absolutely still adored this one. This one's called Lady Bridget's Diary by Maya Rodale. If this book sounds familiar, it's probably because this book is actually based on Bridget Jones' Diary and also Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So this one follows a girl named Bridget and her family. So the family, the Cavendishes family in general, I'm just going to give you an overview of the series, but in general, this American family with 3 daughters and 1 son were grown up in America, and all they knew was just in America and taking care of the farm, running the horses and the stables and things like that. But what happens is that they actually realized that their father was a duke back in England, and that he escaped England and went to America, fell in love with an American girl, and then had them. And now that their parents have passed away, they have to return back to England to take care of the estate and to take care of the people living on the estate and make sure that everything is running properly. So now they have to re-enter into society and go through a lot of boarding school training to learn how to be a proper lady and a proper duke. Lady Bridget is one of the daughters. She is described to be curvier as the other girls. She's more outspoken, and she also finds herself in situations where she makes a fool of herself. One of the scenes that it happens in this book is that she actually fell onto the dance floor, and that's how she met our hero, Lord Darcy. And then this is kind of an enemies to lovers romance between these 2 characters, where they thought that they were complete opposites to each other and they could never be together in the end, but they also have a very strong attraction to each other. There's also a lot of Pride and Prejudice from Bridget and Darcy. Bridget thinks Darcy is a snob, and then while Darcy thinks that she is totally wild and she cannot be tamed, and she is making a fool of herself in the whole entire season. So with this being said, I also have to mention that this series, different plot lines of the series is actually blended into this book, so you can see different plot lines kind of run congruently, and you'll see other characters being introduced in the series and them having their own issues, and then their books will explore that issue later on. So if you guys are interested in books kind of weaving together in the same time frame, then definitely check out this book. I thought that it was very interesting, and I absolutely adored Lord Darcy and Bridget. They were so cute with each other, and there were so many funny scenes, and it was just so sweet, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. So the next book in the series is actually a book called Chasing Lady Amelia, and Amelia is one of the sisters in the Cavendishes family, and she is trying to make a woman of herself. She came on this grand adventure to go to England to see what is out there, and she wanted to see the countries and she wanted to explore, but what she didn't expect was that she was going to be stuck in a classroom all day learning how to be a proper lady, and also learning that her own purpose in England is to actually find a suitable husband so she can marry and carry on with the family title and things like that. But that's not what she wants. She wants to have her own life. She wants to explore different countries, and she doesn't want to be confined to a space. So she basically has a very wanderlust personality trait, and all she wants to do is just to break the rules and go out. So one day she is found on the streets, and it's in the middle of the night, and our hero actually comes and rescues her and takes her back into his home. And then throughout that night and also throughout the day, they go exploring England together, and they basically do everything that Amelia always wanted to to do, but she couldn't do with the strict, like, overlooking family that was housing them. And then obviously they fall in love with each other, and this is kind of their love story. But our hero is actually lying to Amelia because he was told by his uncle that he has to pursue Amelia and to also seduce her so that he can marry her for the money that she had. And now he has to prove to her that he actually loves her and not for the money, and basically apologize to her that, you know, he lied this entire time. This one, I don't know which movies this one was based on, but it has a lot of Just One Day vibes by Gail Foreman, and then it also has Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn vibes to it. I don't know what the 90s film is based on. My friend once told me, but I forgot. But anyways, this book was fun and interesting a lot of the times because, you know, Amelia was very bright and she's very independent and she's that strong type of character that I really enjoyed. However, I just didn't really care about their whole day. Their whole day lasted about like half the book, and they went out to many different places and explored London, but I just didn't feel like there was any romance between them. Like, they were just having fun. So they could have just been buds for all I cared. So this one, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Still enjoyed it, but I continued on with the series regardless. So the next book in the series is actually Lady Claire Is All That. Now, Lady Claire, or Claire, is very bright. She is very smart in the sense that she loves sciences, she loves math. She's not going to let the fact that she is a female stop her from achieving her dreams of getting her reports published, of working with the best researchers and scientists and doing research reports and going forth with her education and things like that. She's very outspoken in that sense. So what she actually plans to do is that she wants to marry someone like her who is very intelligent and that wouldn't confine her into just, you know, doing ladies' work by taking care of the state and taking care of the household. No, she wants someone who is kind of her companion and that can help her do research and also have an intelligent conversation. What she doesn't expect is to fall in love with our main hero, Lord Fox. And basically Fox is the complete opposite of Claire. Fox is very athletic. He's very tall and broading, and he basically is trying to seduce Claire because there's this bet going on where if Fox can convert Claire into a proper lady, then he will win a large sum of money. So this is kind of the story of Fox trying to chase down Claire and to make Claire fall in love with Fox. And Claire and Fox kind of have this love-hate relationship too, because Claire hates him, but Fox is just trying to flirt with her all the time. I quite enjoyed it. I really liked how Claire was really smart, and I liked how Fox was very supportive of Claire and her dreams and wasn't kind of like stopping her from achieving those dreams. And he was also very supportive in the sense that he always defend her in public when people think that like proper ladies shouldn't talk about mathematics and talk about sciences. So I still quite enjoyed this one, but this one, unfortunately, it wasn't one of my favorites, and I actually ended up giving this one, I think, around a 3 or 2 star rating, simply because I just didn't feel like that there was enough romance. So the last book in the series is actually called It's Hard Out There for a Duke, and this one is about our brother in the Cavendishes family, and he is trusted to be, you know, the owner of the state, to take care of the state, and to also see his 3 little sisters marry off and have proper starts in families and things like that. So he kind of has a lot of responsibility put on his shoulders, and he has that typical hero background storyline where he doesn't want to be like the Duke, and he doesn't want to take care of the whole estate. He doesn't want to have so many responsibilities. He just wants to go out there, tame the horses, and take care of the land and really get his hands dirty. And he doesn't want to sit in an office all day and having all these meetings about finances. If you guys are not interested in a story about a guy that keeps whining about things like this, then maybe you guys shouldn't pick up this book, but I endured it and I enjoyed it quite a bit. This is the story of James falling for kind of like a lower class citizen, and our main female heroine is actually a commoner. She is someone that he bumped into at a bar, like a pub or situation, and they have this like one night of passion, and they think that they're really attracted to each other, and they know that something is special between them. But what happens when James goes to the state and realizes that the teacher that's going to be teaching him how to be a proper Duke is actually the commoner that he had this one night of passion with. And this is kind of the story of James trying to figure out like what his lines and duties are, what his responsibilities are to his family, and realizing that he can't always have the things that he wants in life. And this one is very kind of like a hot and cold romance too, featuring both characters not knowing how to move forward with their relationship while also trying not to hold back people. And it had a little bit of angst towards the end, and there was just a lot of things that were said in the end that really hurts your soul and things like that. But this one overall was an enjoyable book, but but I just didn't really care for this main storyline, I guess, because I don't care for the fact that, you know, someone is like a duke status falling for a commoner girl. I just feel like sometimes it's unrealistic, and there's just stuff that, like, it's just a storyline I just don't appreciate. So that's why I'm only giving it 3 out of 5 stars. But if you're okay with that kind of storyline, if that is one of your favorite storylines, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy this book. So moving on to our other series. This one is Bad Boys and Wallflower series. The first book is called The Wicked Wildflower. And I picked up this book thinking that was going to be an average book, but I absolutely adored it. It was so fun. It was so flirty. And I told my friends, like, please read this series. This one is just perfect in every sense. And this one was very fun and entertaining. And I'll tell you why. So basically, we have our 2 characters named Emma and Blake, and Emma is voted to be like the least likely to misbehave. So she's very prim, she's very proper. She went to like this boarding school. I think like this whole series has this like boarding school series where all the girls attended this boarding school so that they could learn how to be a proper lady, so that they can enter into the season and find someone to marry. And then afterwards, Emma is kind of, you know, a wallflower in a sense. Everybody's a wallflower in this series, but she is a wallflower in the fact that she's very tamed and she's very controlled with her outer appearance. So what happens is that Blake kind of breaks that appearance by proposing to her and declaring his love for her, and basically roping her into his scheme to trick his grandmother of all her fortunes, because his grandmother is actually the person that raised him after a very sad childhood, and his grandmother should technically give all her money to him as like an inheritance when she passes away. But she decides to make things a little bit more interesting by creating this fortunes game where she has like multiple couples competing for her fortunes. So Blake, being a single bachelor, needs someone to play along with him so that he can win the fortune, and then they can go their separate ways afterwards. So he decides to make his target to be Emma. And this is the story of Emma and Blake fake dating and playing all these games with his grandmother so that they can try to convince the ton that she is a wanted person and that everybody should be attracted to her, because Blake, the notorious bachelor that everybody is in love with her. And then this is kind of like the story of like trying to figure out if these 2 characters actually like each other or not, or if they're just pretending. I really enjoyed this book because it had a lot of witty banter and witty scenes in it too. It was fun, it was flirty, and it also had an emotional side too as well. What you wouldn't really like about this series, and I think what you wouldn't like about Maya's books, is the fact that everyone that is not in the couple, so like mothers and older females and like basically people with power and watching over our main characters, you would absolutely hate them because they are villains in the stories. They say a lot of traditional things that just makes you get angry a lot, and it causes a lot of issues for our couples. So that's one thing you wouldn't like about the series, is the fact that you're going to hate some characters a lot. So the second book in the series is Wallflower Gone Wild, and basically our main character name is Olivia, and she was voted and nicknamed Prissy Missy, and that's because she follows the rules to the T. Like, she makes sure that she is prim and proper in front of everyone and that nobody can say a bad word about her. So what happens when she enters into the season and her parents actually kind of like force her to marry this man called the Mad Baron, or that's his nickname, and his name is actually Finn. And there are rumors surrounding Finn. There are rumors that Finn actually killed his late wife, and that he is a mad person in the sense that he's very violent and he would hurt a lot of people around him. And there's always this mysterious aura around him where nobody wants to surround themselves with him because he's so silent and brooding. He never really explains anything that happens. So Olivia, in her right mind, is very frightened about marrying this man because all she has ever heard are all these bad rumors about him. So she decides to reinvent herself and basically rebel against society. She decides to make herself very improper. She like talks a lot, she drinks too much, and she does these very embarrassing things so that she can embarrass our main character Finn, so that Finn can call off the marriage. But unfortunately for Finn, he doesn't really see that Olivia is being true to herself and that she is just doing this for God knows what reason. So this story was very complicated in the sense that Olivia knew that Finn was a bad person, and Finn also knew that he had a bad reputation, and he didn't properly communicate to Olivia saying that no, he's not a violent person, and no, he didn't cause the death of his wife, but he just let Olivia kind of stew in it. And there was also all this uncertainty and mystery behind the wife that like the reader would never figure out until like the end too as well, when Finn decides to kind of like tell everyone. And so these two characters were very closed off with each other, and they were very hiding off their insecurities, and you're kind of growing frustrated as they're doing it. But I still really enjoyed this book, and I thought that this book was really funny. I listened to the audiobook of this book, and I literally laughed out loud a lot of time because of the jokes that Olivia would say with her friends. So definitely really enjoyed it, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars, and this one I also gave a 5 out of 5 stars too, if I haven't mentioned it. So the last book in the series is called What a Wallflower Wants, and now this one I have to be very honest with you, and I have to tell you that I actually DNF'd this book. I think I was up till like page 100, and I decided to just not read this book because this one has a trigger warning of sexual assault and trauma that our main female heroine actually suffers through for a majority of the book. And me personally, like, sexual assault scenes are tough and rough, but I think the one thing that I can't really stomach a lot of times and that I don't want to read and stew in is the trauma that our main heroine or our main characters kind of go through. And our main character is named Prudence, and basically Prudence has been in the school for so many seasons, and she has still not to be married, and people think that there's something wrong with her, or maybe she's just being very choosy. And so she decides to marry off to this man that gives her no pleasure and kind of doesn't really like make her blood sing and things like that, and she is just gonna go with this loveless marriage. But then on her way, I think like home, her carriage actually gets robbed, and her husband actually runs off into the forest without her and doesn't protect her at all. So she decides that men are people that you cannot be trusted, and she lives this very cold and hard life until she meets our rescuer, who is named John. And basically John and Prudence are going to have like this road trip journey to wherever they need to go, and they fall in love with each other, and John slowly breaks down Prudence so that Prudence can slowly reveal what's really troubling her and why she seems to be really upset a lot of the times. So like I said, I DNF'd this book because I just didn't want to read about the trauma that Prudence had to go through. I felt really bad for her when it happened and how it happened. So this one wasn't for me, unfortunately, but I feel like that if you're okay with that, and if you enjoy reading stories about people overcoming their trauma and you're okay to stomach it, then I'm sure you're going to really enjoy this book. Maya hasn't really let me down with her books ever, so I think you'll still enjoy it. Definitely go check it out and let me know if you do. But anyways, that is it for these two series. So that is it for my quick wrap up and quick dive into Maya Rodale's series. I absolutely love her writing. I think that her books are very fun, very flirty, like I said so many times in this video already, but I really hope that you guys will try her out more. I've done a quick search on YouTube to see if anybody was talking about her, and unfortunately haven't seen any videos, so this one is the first one. I've seen her books a lot on the bookshelves in my bookstores, and I've actually picked up all her books that she has ever written with Avon Romance, and I'm excited to dive into it. She has a series where one of the dukes is actually tattooed, which I'm very interested in and very intrigued in. Then she also has a series where there are like New York fashion designers or things like that, and they own department stores, which I think is super fun. I mean, it's definitely quirky, and it's definitely something that I haven't seen before in historical romance. Excited to go read those series, but let me know what author that you want me to read next, and let's see if I can find some of their books on my shelves. But until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.